Ryan had always loved the quiet hours of the night. The world outside his small laboratory was asleep, but his mind was wide awake. Tonight was special. After years of failed tests and sleepless nights, he finally had a working prototype of his new space communication system. The idea was simple: send a signal into deep space to test if artificial intelligence could communicate across unknown frequencies. But what Ryan didn't know was that this signal would change his life forever. The lab was dimly lit, filled with the soft hum of machines and the flicker of blue lights from monitors. Ryan adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the control panel. "Okay, let's see if you can hear me out there," he whispered, pressing a series of buttons. A low vibration filled the room as a glowing wave of light left the transmitter, shooting straight into the night sky. The system buzzed louder, screens blinking, codes running faster than ever before. Ryan smiled proudly. "Finally, some progress," he said to himself. Minutes passed. Nothing unusual happened. Ryan sighed, leaned back in his chair and took a sip of cold coffee. He had sent dozens of signals before and received nothing but static. Maybe tonight would be the same. He reached to turn off the console, but then the screen flickered. Once. Twice. Then a strange static sound echoed through the speakers. Ryan froze. His eyes widened as strange symbols appeared on the screen, symbols that weren't part of any human code. The lights in the room dimmed. The static grew louder, and then suddenly the screen cleared. A faint silhouette appeared, human-like but surrounded by a soft golden glow. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. The figure became clearer, a woman with shining eyes like stars and a crown made of light. Her presence was otherworldly, beautiful yet intimidating. Ryan blinked, unsure if he was dreaming. Hello?" he said awkwardly. "Can you hear me?" The woman tilted her head slightly as if studying him. Her lips curved into a soft smile, though her expression carried a strange power. Ryan laughed nervously. "Okay, this is new. If you actually understand me, give me a sign." He waited, staring at the screen. No response. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it was an illusion. Out of boredom and nervousness, he jokingly said, "If you really can understand me, will you marry me?" It was just a joke, a silly line thrown into the air of a lonely night. But before he could even chuckle at his own words, the woman's eyes glowed brighter. The smile on her face deepened, calm and knowing. Then, in a voice soft as music but filled with strength, she replied, "I accept." Ryan froze. The coffee cup in his hand slipped and shattered on the floor. He stared at the screen in disbelief. "Wait, what? You can talk? You understand me?" But before he could say more, the image on the screen began to distort. The woman's glow flickered like a dying flame, and the transmission went black. The lab fell silent again. Only the hum of machines remained. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. He leaned closer to the monitor, whispering, "Who are you?" No answer. He replayed the recording, but the data was corrupted. Nothing made sense. He rubbed his face, shaking his head. "Great, now I'm talking to space ghosts," he muttered. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that it was real. Her voice, her eyes, the strange warmth that filled the room. As he tried to shut down the system, the lights in the lab flickered again. The air grew heavy, charged with static energy. Ryan looked around nervously. Okay, what's going on now? A cold breeze brushed past his neck, though the doors and windows were closed. He turned around slowly, the hair on his arms standing up. Behind him, in the dim light, a shadow moved. A whisper echoed softly, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "I've come for you, my chosen one." Ryan spun around, heart racing. The screens turned on by themselves, glowing with strange alien symbols. The air shimmered, and for a moment he thought he saw the same glowing figure standing behind him. Not on the screen, but right there in the room. The same crown of light, the same glowing eyes. He stumbled back, knocking over a chair. "This isn't real," he whispered, his voice shaking. But the figure took a step closer, her golden armor reflecting the flickering light. Her gaze was calm, unblinking. "You called me," she said softly. "And I accepted." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't move. He couldn't think. The lab around him began to shake as if reacting to her presence. Papers flew off the table and sparks danced across the equipment. The connection that had started as an experiment had now turned into something impossible. Something living. The woman reached out her hand, her voice echoing like a melody inside his head. You asked, and the stars have heard. Our bond is sealed. Before Ryan could respond, everything went dark. The machines shut down, the lights went out, and for a heartbeat there was complete silence. Then faintly he heard her whisper again, right next to his ear. Don't be afraid, my chosen one. This is only the beginning. And in that moment, Ryan knew his life would never be the same again. Ryan woke up on the cold floor of his lab, the metallic taste of fear still on his tongue. The lights flickered weakly and his equipment lay scattered all around him. For a moment he wondered if it had all been a dream. The glowing woman, the strange voice, the whisper that had called him my chosen one. But when he lifted his hand, his heart froze. A faint golden mark shimmered on his skin, glowing softly under the lab light. A perfect ring of light that hadn't been there before. He rubbed it hard, thinking it was some kind of burn or chemical reaction, but it didn't fade. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. His heartbeat. He stood up shakily, trying to make sense of what had happened. The system was completely fried. Screens black, wires melted, the air filled with the smell of ozone. Ryan checked the time. Only 5 minutes had passed since the transmission ended. 5 minutes that felt like a lifetime. He exhaled slowly, muttering to himself, Okay, maybe I just need sleep. He turned off the remaining switches, grabbed his jacket, and started toward the door. But before he could leave, the air shimmered again. A low hum filled the room, vibrating deep in his chest. He turned around him and froze. Right in the center of the lab, a golden light appeared. It twisted and swirled like liquid fire, spreading into a tall, glowing shape. Slowly, the light began to take form. A figure emerged, graceful, otherworldly, her hair flowing like silver silk in an invisible breeze. It was her, the same woman from the transmission. The alien queen. Ryan stumbled backward, speechless. She was real. Her armor gleamed like molten gold, every movement radiating quiet power. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, calm but filled with mystery. She looked at him with a soft smile, the same one she had given before saying, I accept. Who are you? Ryan stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The woman stepped closer, her voice smooth and echoing slightly, as if the air itself carried her words. I am Lyra, Queen of Alaris, the keeper of the Star Bond. She looked at him, her expression calm but unreadable. And you, Ryan of Earth, are the one who called me? Ryan blinked in disbelief. Called you? No, I didn't call anyone. I was just testing a signal, an experiment. I didn't mean. Lyra tilted her head slightly. You spoke the ancient words of union before the stars, she said softly. When you asked if I would bind with you, the bond was sealed. Such words cannot be undone once the stars have heard them. Ryan let out a shaky laugh. Wait, that was a joke. I didn't mean it seriously. You can't possibly think that. Her eyes glowed brighter, cutting him off. Do you think the universe listens only to your intentions, human? You called, and the stars answered. Our bond is now real. Ryan's throat went dry. Bond? What bond? Lyra reached out her hand, and suddenly the golden mark on Ryan's skin flared. He gasped as warmth rushed through his body, like energy flowing straight into his heart. That mark, she said, her voice calm and certain. It is the seal of the Star Bond. You and I are connected. Our souls are joined by cosmic law. Ryan shook his head, stepping back. No, this can't be happening. The Queen's expression softened. I understand your fear. The bond was not meant to form this way, but it is done. She glanced around the lab, curious, touching a metal table with her fingertips. The metal shimmered briefly at her touch. This world is strange, she whispered, almost to herself. So quiet. So heavy. Ryan stared at her, trying to process everything. You're saying that by accident I proposed to you, and now we're married? She turned her gaze back to him, a faint smile on her lips. In the language of your world, yes. Ryan groaned, dragging a hand down his face. Unbelievable. I accidentally proposed to an alien queen. This is insane. Lyra's eyes flickered with amusement. Perhaps. But it is destiny. Before Ryan could respond, the lab lights dimmed again. The air grew colder, filled with a strange static energy. Lyra's expression suddenly hardened. She turned sharply toward the window, her eyes narrowing. They found us, she said quietly. Who? Ryan asked. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Outside, the night sky rippled with faint blue light as if the air itself was alive. A deep rumble echoed from the horizon. The Shadow Guard, she said finally. Enemies of my realm. They seek to destroy our bond before it can strengthen. Ryan's pulse quickened. Enemies? As in like aliens? Lyra looked at him, her tone calm but urgent. If they sense the bond is weak, they will come for you first. You are human, vulnerable. Ryan swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. What are we supposed to do then? Lyra stepped closer, her golden armor glowing softly in the dark. You must trust me, she said. Our bond gives me strength here, but your fear weakens it. He hesitated, staring into her glowing eyes. She seemed calm, confident, yet somehow he could sense the danger was real. This is crazy, he whispered. Her voice was low, almost tender. Perhaps. But your world is no longer safe. From this moment on, you are bound to me, Ryan of Earth. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky, but it wasn't lightning. It was energy, swirling like a storm of blue fire. Ryan's monitors flickered with alien symbols again, glowing through the darkness. Lyra looked at him one last time and said softly, They are coming, and they will not stop until one of us is gone. Ryan's mind spun with fear and confusion. He wanted to wake up to believe it was still a dream. But as the golden mark on his hand pulsed again, matching the rhythm of her glowing armor, he realized the truth. This was real, and it was only the beginning. Ryan barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, flashes of the alien queen's face appeared in his mind. Her calm gaze, her glowing eyes, her voice that echoed like a melody from another world. The golden mark on his hand still shimmered faintly, no matter how much he tried to cover it. It pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own. He sat in his dark apartment, staring out the window. The city lights flickered below, unaware of the strange events happening in his small corner of the world. This is crazy, he whispered to himself. I can't be connected to some alien queen. That's impossible. But deep inside he could feel something. A warmth in his chest, like a presence that wasn't his own. It was her. By morning, Ryan decided to return to his lab. Maybe he could figure out what had gone wrong. Maybe it was a hallucination, a side effect of exhaustion, or a strange trick of light. He told himself that 1,000 times. But when he entered the lab, he stopped cold. The lights were already on. The air shimmered faintly with golden dust. And standing near the center of the room, looking at the equipment with quiet curiosity, was Lyra, the alien queen. She was real, again. Good morning, Ryan of Earth, she said softly, turning toward him. Her voice was calm, yet carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. Ryan nearly dropped his bag. You're still here? I thought maybe you were just some kind of projection. She tilted her head slightly, amused. You still doubt what your own eyes can see. He rubbed his temples. I don't even know what to believe anymore. You appear out of nowhere, say I accidentally proposed, and now you're telling me we're bonded across the universe. How is that even possible? Lyra stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly as she spoke. Our worlds are connected by energy, not distance. When you spoke those words, the star law bound our essences together. The universe itself recognized the union. Such bonds cannot be created nor broken by mistake. Ryan looked at his hand again. The golden ring of light seemed brighter now. So this mark, it's real? She nodded. Yes, it is a living link between our souls. When I speak, you feel. When you feel, I sense it. Our bond goes beyond language or distance. Ryan took a step back. That's terrifying. Lyra gave a small, almost amused smile. Terrifying? Or powerful? She moved closer, and the air around her seemed to hum. This connection gives us strength, and it can bend energy, heal, and protect. But only if the bond is balanced. Fear and denial weaken it. Ryan crossed his arms, trying to sound calm even though his voice trembled. Well, sorry if I'm not exactly thrilled about marrying someone from another planet. Lyra's smile faded slightly. You think of this as a human union, but the bond between stars is more than marriage. Whoa, it is destiny. It was written long before you were born. Ryan shook his head. I don't believe in destiny. Then believe in truth, she said softly. The energy inside you is proof enough. Before he could answer, a sudden jolt of pain shot through his chest. He gasped, clutching the glowing mark on his hand. Lyra's eyes widened and she reached out to steady him. It's the connection, she said quickly. The bond is growing, but your human body isn't ready for it. Ryan's breathing quickened. Growing? What do you mean growing? The energy is trying to balance between us, she explained. Your soul is aligning with mine. If we don't stabilize it soon, both worlds could feel the disturbance. Ryan stared at her in disbelief. You're saying my mistake could destroy both planets? She met his gaze calmly. If the bond shatters under stress, yes. For a long moment, they stood in silence. Ryan felt cold sweat on his forehead. The world outside went on like nothing had changed, yet everything in his life had been turned upside down in less than a day. He looked up at Lyra. So what do we do? Lyra's expression softened. You must learn to trust me, she said. The bond responds to emotion. If you fight it, it will turn unstable. But if you accept it, it will protect us both. Ryan frowned. Trust? I barely even know you. She took another step closer, the soft glow of her armor lighting up his face. Then know this, she said quietly. On my world, trust is not given by words, but by hearts. When I said I accept, it was not a joke to me. It was a vow. He looked into her eyes. Bright, deep, unshakable. For a moment, he felt something stir inside him. It wasn't fear this time. It was something warm, something that made his pulse quicken. He quickly looked away. Fine, he muttered. But if I'm going to believe any of this, I need proof. Lyra smiled slightly. Then see for yourself. She raised her hand and the golden mark on his skin began to glow brighter. The lights in the lab dimmed and the air shimmered with a soft golden mist. In an instant, Ryan's vision blurred, and suddenly he wasn't standing in his lab anymore. He was standing under a vast sky filled with twin suns. The air was alive with color, and floating islands drifted in the distance. Towering crystal towers sparkled like stars, and rivers of light flowed across the ground. Ryan turned slowly, awe in his eyes. What is this? Lyra stood beside him, her armor gleaming in the radiant sky. This is Alaris, she said softly. My world. Your other half. Ryan could hardly breathe. I'm dreaming. I must be dreaming. She looked at him, her voice gentle. No, Ryan, you are inside the bond. What you see is the link between our souls, a bridge between your world and mine. He turned to face her. It's beautiful. But why show me this? Because you needed to feel it, she said. To understand that what connects us is real. As she spoke, Ryan noticed something strange. The more he focused on her, the brighter the world around them glowed. It was as if her presence fueled everything, light, air, even his heartbeat. And then, just as suddenly, the vision faded. He was back in his lab, gasping for breath, his body trembling. Lyra watched him quietly. Do you believe me now? She asked. Ryan nodded slowly, still catching his breath. I don't know what to believe, he said honestly. But whatever that was, it felt real. Lyra's eyes softened. Then our bond is growing stronger, she said. And soon, Ryan of Earth, you will understand why the stars chose you. Outside, the morning sky darkened slightly, as if something enormous was moving just beyond the clouds. Ryan didn't notice it yet, but the first shadow of the coming danger had already arrived. The next morning came with a strange silence. The city outside Ryan's apartment felt distant, like a dream he could no longer return to. He sat by the window, the sunlight touching the golden mark on his hand, now glowing brighter than ever. Every pulse reminded him that Lyra was real, that their lives were connected in a way that defied science, logic, and everything he'd ever believed. His phone buzzed on the desk. A message from his friend and coworker, Eli. You okay, man? You've missed 2 meetings. Everyone's worried. Ryan stared at the screen but didn't reply. How could he explain? Sorry. I accidentally proposed to an alien queen and now I might destroy the universe. No one would believe him. He put the phone down and rubbed his temples. I'm losing it, he muttered. Completely losing it. Then a soft voice echoed from behind him. You're not losing anything. You're awakening. Ryan jumped. Lyra stood there, glowing faintly even in daylight, her expression calm and unreadable. You can't just appear like that, he said, heart pounding. She tilted her head slightly. The bond allows me to move between places you inhabit. I'm drawn to you when the connection strengthens. Ryan sighed, pacing the room. You need to stop doing that. People will see you. Lyra looked out the window at the human world below. Cars, people, noise, all so far from her world of light. Your kind sees only what it wishes to see, she said quietly. To them I am just a reflection in the glass. Ryan stared at her. There was something both terrifying and fascinating about how effortlessly she existed, like she belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. He tried to shift the conversation. Last night you said if the bond breaks, both our worlds could collapse. How is that even possible? Lyra turned to him, her gaze steady. Our energies are now one thread in the fabric of existence. When two worlds connect, balance must be maintained. If one side rejects it, the other falls into chaos. That's why we must protect it. Ryan frowned. Protect it from what? She hesitated for the first time. From those who fear it. Her tone changed, softer but heavy with warning. She walked to the window and raised her hand. The glass shimmered, revealing not just the reflection of the city, but a distant world in the sky. Vast, golden, and surrounded by swirling light. Ryan stared, breathless. That's your planet? Yes, she said quietly. Ellerus, the realm of light. But it is not as peaceful as it seems. The image flickered, showing flashes of chaos, dark ships, glowing weapons, storms ripping through the sky. There are those who oppose the star bond. They believe uniting with a human will weaken our kind. My enemies would destroy the connection, and you to stop it. Ryan felt a chill run through him. So they're after me too? Lyra nodded. They can sense the bond growing stronger. They will come. He tried to think rationally, but nothing about this was rational. What do they want? To end you before the bond matures, she said simply. Because when it does, neither world will be able to unbind us. The link will be eternal. Ryan swallowed hard. So what do I do? Hide? Her gaze softened. No. You must learn to control the energy inside you. The bond gives you strength, Ryan, more than you realize. He shook his head. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist. I don't know how to fight aliens. A faint smile appeared on her lips. You don't need to fight. You only need to trust me. Before he could respond, a sudden sound echoed from outside, a low humming noise like thunder rolling from the sky. Ryan and Lyra both turned toward the window. The air outside shimmered with faint ripples like heat waves, but colder, darker. Lyra's expression hardened. They've found us. What already? Ryan whispered. Without warning, the window exploded inward with a flash of blue energy. Ryan fell back, shielding his face. When the smoke cleared, 3 tall, armored figures stood in the wreckage, their armor black and silver, their eyes glowing red. They spoke in a harsh, metallic language Ryan couldn't understand. Lyra stepped in front of him, her hand glowing gold. Stay behind me, she said firmly. Ryan's heart raced as one of the figures raised a weapon, a staff that crackled with dark energy. Lyra extended her hand, and a shield of golden light burst forth, blocking the attack. The blast shook the room, sending debris flying, but she didn't flinch. Her eyes glowed brighter, her voice strong. You dare trespass upon the chosen bond? The aliens hissed in reply, their voices sharp and distorted. Ryan couldn't understand their words, but he could feel their hatred, directed at him. Lyra raised her hand again, and a surge of light shot from her palm, striking one of the attackers and sending it flying through the broken wall. The other 2 stepped back, snarling. Go, she shouted to Ryan. Find cover. He hesitated, staring at her. You'll get hurt. Lyra glanced at him over her shoulder, her expression fierce. I am the Queen of Alaris. No shadow can harm me while the stars stand. Her golden energy flared again, lighting up the entire room. The attackers hesitated, then vanished into a ripple of blue mist. The light faded and silence fell once more. Ryan slowly stood, staring at the destruction. What just happened? Lyra turned to him, breathing heavily. They were scouts, she said. Messengers of the Shadow Guard. They've confirmed our location. More will come. Ryan's hands trembled. This is insane. My lab, my apartment, everything's gone. Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Your world is no longer the same. You must accept that now. The bond between us is growing, and so is the danger. He met her eyes, his fear mixed with something else. Something deeper. If we're really connected, he said slowly, then maybe I can help. Somehow. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then softly she said, You already are. Outside, the sky darkened as clouds swirled unnaturally above the city. Somewhere beyond the stars, an army prepared to cross the void. All for one man who had made a joke he never meant, and for a queen who had taken that joke as destiny. Lyra turned to him, her gaze steady. Our energies are now one thread in the fabric of existence. When two worlds connect, balance must be maintained. If one side rejects it, the other falls into chaos. That's why we must protect it. Ryan frowned. Protect it from what? She hesitated for the first time. From those who fear it. Her tone changed, softer but heavy with warning. She walked to the window and raised her hand. The glass shimmered, revealing not just the reflection of the city but a distant world in the sky, vast, golden, and surrounded by swirling light. Ryan stared breathless. That's your planet? Yes, she said quietly. Ilaris, the realm of light. But it is not as peaceful as it seems. The image flickered, showing flashes of chaos. Dark ships, glowing weapons, storms ripping through the sky. There are those who oppose the star bond. They believe uniting with a human will weaken our kind. My enemies would destroy the connection, and you, to stop it. Ryan felt a chill run through him. So they're after me too? Lyra nodded. They can sense the bond growing stronger. They will come. He tried to think rationally, but nothing about this was rational. What do they want? To end you before the bond matures, she said simply. Because when it does, neither world will be able to unbind us. The link will be eternal. Ryan swallowed hard. So, what do I do? Hide? Her gaze softened. No. You must learn to control the energy inside you. The bond gives you strength, Ryan, more than you realize. He shook his head. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist. I don't know how to fight aliens. A faint smile appeared on her lips. You don't need to fight. You only need to trust me. Before he could respond, a sudden sound echoed from outside, a low humming noise like thunder rolling from the sky. Ryan and Lyra both turned toward the window. The air outside shimmered with faint ripples like heat waves, but colder, darker. Lyra's expression hardened. They've found us. What, already? Ryan whispered. Without warning, the window exploded inward with a flash of blue energy. Ryan fell back, shielding his face. When the smoke cleared, 3 tall, armored figures stood in the wreckage, their armor black and silver, their eyes glowing red. They spoke in a harsh, metallic language Ryan couldn't understand. Lyra stepped in front of him, her hand glowing gold. Stay behind me, she said firmly. Ryan's heart raced as one of the figures raised a weapon, a staff that crackled with dark energy. Lyra extended her hand and a shield of golden light burst forth, blocking the attack. The blast shook the room, sending debris flying, but she didn't flinch. Her eyes glowed brighter, her voice strong. You dare trespass upon the chosen bond? The aliens hissed in reply, their voices sharp and distorted. Ryan couldn't understand their words, but he could feel their hatred, directed at him. Lyra raised her hand again, and a surge of light shot from her palm, striking one of the attackers and sending it flying through the broken wall. The other 2 stepped back, snarling. Go, she shouted to Ryan. Find cover. He hesitated, staring at her. You'll get hurt. Lyra glanced at him over her shoulder, her expression fierce. I am the Queen of Ilaris. No shadow can harm me while the stars stand. Her golden energy flared again, lighting up the entire room. The attackers hesitated, then vanished into a ripple of blue mist. The light faded and silence fell once more. Ryan slowly stood, staring at the destruction. What just happened? Lyra turned to him, breathing heavily. They were scouts, she said. Messengers of the Shadow Guard. They've confirmed our location. More will come. Ryan's hands trembled. This is insane. My lab, my apartment, everything's gone. Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Your world is no longer the same. You must accept that now. The bond between us is growing, and so is the danger. He met her eyes, his fear mixed with something else, and something deeper. If we're really connected, he said slowly, then maybe I can help. Somehow. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then softly she said, You already are. Outside, the sky darkened as clouds swirled unnaturally above the city. Somewhere beyond the stars, an army prepared to cross the void, all for one man who had made a joke he never meant, and for a queen who had taken that joke as destiny. Ryan felt weightless, as if the ground had disappeared beneath him. A whirl of golden light wrapped around his body, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. Then on silence. When he opened his eyes, the world around him was no longer Earth. The sky shimmered with hues of violet and silver, filled with twin suns that cast soft golden shadows. Strange floating islands drifted above them, connected by streams of glowing energy. He stood on a crystal-like surface that sparkled under his feet. The air was warm and filled with a soft hum like distant music. Where are we?" he whispered, staring in awe. Lyra stood beside him, her armor gleaming brighter than ever. "Welcome to Alaris, my home." Ryan's breath caught. The planet looked like a dream, both beautiful and terrifying. Towering spires of light rose from the ground, surrounded by vast forests that glowed faintly in the twilight. Rivers of energy flowed like molten glass, and flying creatures shimmered across the skies like living stars. He turned slowly, still trying to process it all. "This place is unreal," he said. Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at her world. "It was once the crown of our galaxy," she said quietly. "But war has left scars. The Shadow Guard has spread their darkness even here." Ryan noticed it then. Far in the distance, one of the floating islands was dark, the glow replaced by a swirling black mist. "That's where they are, isn't it?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "The fortress of the High General. That is where your destiny leads." Ryan gave a nervous laugh. "Great, my destiny involves getting killed by space demons. Fantastic." She smiled faintly. "You have faced worse than you think. Come, we must reach the council before the general finds us." They began their journey through Alaris, walking across glowing bridges and through fields of light. Everywhere they went, Ryan felt strange, like the air itself was alive. The bond mark on his hand pulsed faintly with each step, reacting to the planet's energy. As they entered a crystal forest, Lyra slowed down. "This place is sacred," she said softly. "It listens. Speak truth here and it will protect you. Speak lies and it will consume you." Ryan looked around uneasily. "Yeah, I'll stick to the truth then." The forest shimmered faintly and glowing particles floated through the air. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Lyra glanced at him. "You see beauty where others see danger." "That is unusual," he smiled. "Guess I'm just an optimist." But before she could reply, the sky above them darkened. A rumble echoed through the air, deep like thunder mixed with a growl. Lyra's face turned serious. "They found us." The ground shook. From the shadows between the glowing trees, figures began to emerge, tall, armored, and wreathed in dark mist. The Shadow Guard. Ryan's pulse quickened. "Already?" "Stay close," Lyra commanded, summoning her golden spear. Her armor flared, radiating light that pushed the shadows back. The first of the creatures lunged forward, swinging a black blade. Lyra moved like lightning, blocking it and countering with a strike that burst into golden sparks. "Ryan," she shouted. "Focus the bond." He raised his hand, the golden mark flaring to life. He felt the warmth spreading through his arm again. That same power he had barely learned to control. He thought of her calm voice, her unshakable strength. And the light in his hand grew brighter. He aimed his palm toward the nearest creature. "Let's hope this works," he muttered, releasing a burst of energy. The beam struck the ground, exploding in a wave of golden light that sent 3 of the attackers flying. Lyra looked back at him briefly and smiled. "You're learning faster than I expected." "Thanks," Ryan said, panting. "But I'd prefer fewer tests." The last of the Shadow Guard retreated, vanishing into the dark mist. Lyra lowered her weapon slowly, scanning the forest. "They're retreating for now," she said. "But they will return, stronger." Ryan leaned against a tree, breathing hard. "You know, back on Earth, my biggest problem was paying rent." She laughed softly, a sound so rare it made him forget the danger for a moment. "You've come far, human. But the hardest part lies ahead. What happens next?" he asked. Lyra's expression turned solemn again. "We go to the Crystal Citadel. The Council must see the bond. Only they can tell us how to face the High General." They began walking again, the glow of the forest fading behind them. As they approached a wide, shining valley, Ryan noticed something strange. Faint whispers echoing through the air. The voices seemed to call his name. He stopped. "Lyra, do you hear that?" She turned sharply. "What did you hear?" "They're calling me, like they know who I am." Lyra's eyes darkened. "That's not the forest," she said. "That's the bond speaking to you." Ryan frowned. "The bond?" She nodded. "It is ancient. It remembers every connection ever made between our worlds. Sometimes it whispers to those who carry it. You must not listen too closely, and it can lead you astray." But the voices grew louder. "Ryan, chosen one, The stars, remember? He covered his ears. I can't stop hearing it. Lyra grabbed his shoulders, her eyes glowing fiercely. Look at me, she said sharply. Focus on me, not the voices. He met her gaze, and slowly the whispers faded. His heartbeat slowed. Lyra exhaled in relief. You are stronger than you think, she said quietly. But the bond is changing faster than it should. The council must see you immediately. Ryan nodded weakly. Then let's move. As they reached the edge of the valley, the massive spires of the crystal citadel rose before them. A fortress made entirely of light, shining like a beacon across the horizon. Lyra looked up at it, her voice low and steady. Once we enter, there's no turning back. The council will decide whether the bond between us is salvation or destruction. Ryan swallowed hard, his pulse quickening again. So basically, they'll either help us or kill me? She met his eyes, the faintest trace of sorrow in hers. Yes. The wind howled softly across the glowing plains as they stepped forward, together, toward the fate neither of them could escape. The crystal citadel towered above, Ryan and Lyra like a mountain made of light. It shimmered with every color of the cosmos, blues, silvers, and golds, and yet it pulsed like something alive, almost breathing. Ryan had never seen anything so awe-inspiring or so intimidating. The closer they got, the stronger the hum in the air became. It wasn't just sound. It was energy, wrapping around his skin and echoing through his bones. Lyra stopped in front of the grand entrance, two massive crystal doors engraved with glowing runes. She placed her palm against the surface, and the symbols came alive with light. The doors opened slowly with a deep melodic vibration that seemed to shake the air itself. Inside the citadel was a vast chamber of floating platforms and golden bridges suspended in midair. Streams of energy flowed like rivers above them, and enormous crystal pillars rose into the heavens, connecting to what looked like stars themselves. At the far end of the hall stood 5 glowing figures, tall regal beings with eyes like galaxies. The Council of Alaris, Lyra said quietly. They rule over the bond and all who carry its power. Ryan's breath hitched. They're not human, are they? Lyra shook her head slowly. No, they are the first light, beings who existed before even my kind. Be respectful and speak only when spoken to. He nodded nervously, clutching his arm to steady his trembling hand. As they approached the council, the tallest of the figures, a being with a crown of white light, stepped forward. His voice echoed like thunder softened by wind. Lyra, Queen of the Celestial Order, he said, his tone both warm and stern. You return at last, but not alone. Lyra bowed her head. Great elders, I come seeking guidance. The human beside me, Ryan, has formed an unbidden bond with me through the ancient signal. The Shadow Guard has risen once again. The High General hunts us both. The council murmured softly among themselves, their voices overlapping like waves. One of them, with eyes of deep blue light, spoke next. A human bound by the bond of light? Impossible. Such power would destroy his form. Lyra glanced at Ryan, her expression defiant. And yet he stands. Ryan took a hesitant step forward. I don't really understand any of this, he said carefully, his voice echoing faintly. But if this bond is what connects your world and mine, maybe it can fix what's broken. Maybe it can stop the Shadow Guard. The hall went silent. The council stared at him. Finally, the crowned elder spoke again. Your courage is noted, human, but your existence threatens both realms. The bond between you two is unstable. It grows faster than it should. If left unchecked, it could merge your world and ours, tearing both apart. Ryan's heart dropped. So what are you saying? That I'm a danger to everyone? The elder's eyes dimmed slightly. Yes, and that is why we must decide your fate. Lyra stepped forward, her voice rising. He is not the enemy. The High General is. The bond chose him, not by accident, but by purpose. You taught us that fate does not make mistakes. Perhaps, the elder said, but the High General seeks the same bond, to twist it into a weapon. If he captures the human, he will control the light of creation itself. Ryan looked between them, his mind spinning. Then what do we do? The elder paused, then extended his hand. We can sever the bond. It will save both worlds, Ryan frowned. Sever it, you mean? Break it? Lyra turned sharply toward the elder. If you sever it, he dies, Ryan froze. Wait, what? The elder's gaze was unflinching. The bond has become part of your life force. To remove it is to end you. Lyra's voice broke slightly, her calm mask cracking. "No, I will not allow it." "Then the alternative," said the elder, "is to complete it, to merge your essence fully with hers. But know this. Once complete, the human will no longer be entirely human. He will belong to Alaris." Ryan's mouth went dry. "You're saying I either die or stop being me?" Lyra turned to him, her eyes full of emotion. "Ryan, if we merge, you'll survive, but you'll never return to Earth." He stared at her, torn. His life, his world, everything he'd known, gone. But when he looked into her eyes, the fear began to fade. "What happens if we don't do anything?" he asked finally. The elder's answer came like thunder. "Then the bond will collapse and both worlds will burn." The room went silent again. Ryan took a deep breath, his hands shaking. He looked at Lyra, his voice low. "What would you do if you were me?" She hesitated. "I would save both worlds, even if it meant losing everything I am." Ryan nodded slowly, his mind made up. "Then that's what I'll do." Lyra's eyes widened. "Ryan, you don't understand what you're choosing." "I do," he said quietly. "I started this. I'm finishing it," the council murmured again. The crowned elder lifted his staff, the tip glowing brighter than the suns outside. "Then it is decided. The merging ritual will begin at the dawn of the twin suns." Lyra turned to Ryan, her voice trembling slightly for the first time. "If you go through with this, there's no turning back. You will become part of me, part of this world. You'll lose your past." Ryan met her gaze, his voice soft but steady. "Maybe I'll lose my past, but maybe that's the only way to build a future." The elder raised his hand, and the entire citadel lit up with the twin suns rose slowly over Alaris, their light spilling across the crystal towers and glowing plains. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. Inside the citadel, Ryan stood before a vast chamber, circular with golden patterns swirling across the floor like living fire. In the center stood a radiant crystal altar, glowing with the same energy as the mark on his hand. He could feel the pulse of the bond inside him, faster, louder, as if the universe itself was counting down. His thoughts were a storm. He was about to give up everything he knew, Earth, his life, his humanity, to save a world he never meant to reach. Lyra entered the chamber, her armor gleaming brighter than ever, her crown pulsing with light. But her expression wasn't calm anymore. It was heavy with emotion, fear, sorrow, and something she couldn't say out loud. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, her radiant light. "So be it. The bond shall be completed at dawn." As they were escorted to their chambers to rest before the ritual, Ryan looked out at the alien horizon. Twin suns were beginning to rise, bathing the planet in gold and violet light. He whispered to himself, "This all started as a joke, and now I'm marrying an alien queen to save the universe." Behind him, Lyra stood silently, watching the horizon too, but in her eyes there was fear. Not for herself, but for him. Because deep down, she knew something the council hadn't said. If the bond merged completely, Ryan might survive. But the part of him she cared for most, and his humanity, his heart, might be lost forever. And as the light of dawn grew stronger, she whispered to herself, "Please, don't let me lose him too." Ryan smiled weakly. "No, but let's do it anyway." She stepped closer, her voice low. "Once the merging begins, the bond will decide. If our hearts are not aligned, the energy could destroy us both." Ryan looked into her eyes. "Then I guess we'd better be on the same side." For a long moment they stood there, human and alien, two lives tangled by fate. Then the chamber filled with light as the council appeared, surrounding the altar. The crowned elder raised his staff, and his voice echoed like the sound of stars moving. "By the will of the bond and the power of the first light, let the merging begin." The runes on the floor flared to life. Ryan felt a surge of energy rush through his body. Heat, light, pain. His knees buckled and he gasped for breath. Lyra caught his hands, holding him steady. Golden energy began to flow from her palms into his chest, their light merging together. He saw flashes, memories that weren't his. Lyra's childhood among the stars, her first battle, the fall of her people, the loneliness of command, and within it all a faint echo of his own world. Coffee cups, city lights, laughter. Two lives colliding, becoming one. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. "Don't fight it, Ryan, let it in." He closed his eyes. The pain grew stronger, but so did the warmth. It felt like his soul was stretching, breaking, and rebuilding into something new. The bond on his hand glowed brighter than ever, lines of golden energy spreading across his skin. Then suddenly, a roar. The chamber shook violently. The light flickered. The council members turned sharply toward the entrance. A shadow fell across the room, massive, dark, and filled with swirling energy. Lyra's eyes widened. "No," she whispered. From the darkness stepped the High General. His armor was black as void, his eyes burning red. The Shadow Guard's commander. The destroyer of worlds, so he said, his voice like thunder. The Queen and her little human pet dare to defy the will of darkness. The council raised their staffs, but before they could act, the general extended his hand when an black energy exploded through the room, throwing them back. The crystals dimmed. The merging process faltered. Lyra moved in front of Ryan, her golden spear appearing in her hand. "You will not touch him," the general laughed. "Do you truly believe you can protect him? He carries the light that belongs to us." He raised his weapon and the floor cracked beneath them. Lyra leaped forward, striking with her spear, but he caught it mid-swing, twisting it out of her grasp and hurling her across the chamber. "Lyra!" Ryan shouted, rushing toward her. But the general appeared before him in a flash, his red eyes gleaming. "So this is the human," he said, studying him. "The one foolish enough to bind himself to the light. Do you even understand what you've done, child? You've created a bridge I can use." Ryan glared, clutching his glowing hand. "You'll never use it," the general grinned. "Won't I?" He grabbed Ryan by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. Dark energy began to seep into Ryan's skin, trying to corrupt the bond. Pain shot through his body, his vision blurring. Lyra forced herself up, blood on her lip, and screamed, "Let him go!" She raised her hand and unleashed a blast of golden light, striking the general in the chest. He staggered back, roaring in fury. The entire citadel trembled. Ryan collapsed to the ground, gasping. The mark on his hand burned fiercely, reacting to the clash of light and darkness. He felt something deep inside him awaken, a surge of power stronger than anything before. "Ryan!" Lyra shouted. "The bond, it's choosing. Use it." He pressed his palm to the ground. Light exploded outward, forming a wave that rippled across the floor. The dark mist recoiled. The general growled, raising his weapon again. "You cannot destroy me, human," he bellowed. Ryan's voice was low but steady. "Maybe not alone, but I'm not alone." Lyra appeared beside him, her hand gripping his. The two of them stood together, light surrounding them like a storm. Their voices merged in two tones, one sound. With light and life combined, they said as one, "We seal the bond." A blinding explosion tore through the chamber. The general screamed as the light engulfed him, his form disintegrating into fragments of shadow. The entire citadel shook and the energy of Alaris burst upward into the sky, turning the twin suns into a single burning star. When the light finally faded, the chamber was silent. The general was gone. The shadow guard vanished. The council slowly rose, their forms flickering weakly. At the center of the room, Lyra knelt beside Ryan. He lay still, the golden mark now spread across his chest, glowing faintly. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please wake up." For a moment there was nothing. Then his eyes opened, glowing faintly gold. He smiled weakly. "Told you. We'd finish it." Tears filled her eyes, something rare for a queen who had faced 1,000 wars. "You did more than finish it. You saved us all." He sat up slowly, looking at his hands. They shimmered with faint golden light, but he felt different, stronger, quieter, like the world was part of him now. Lyra touched his cheek softly. "The bond is complete," she said. "You are no longer of Earth, and yet, you are not fully Ilarian either." Ryan smiled gently. "Guess that makes me something in between." She smiled too. "Something new." Outside, the sky of Alaris glowed brighter than ever, cleansed of shadow. The people of light rose again. The bond had saved both worlds, but it had also created something neither realm had ever seen, a bridge between them. As Ryan and Lyra stood together on the citadel balcony, the wind carrying golden dust across the sky, Ryan whispered, "So, what now?" Lyra looked at the stars. "Now we rebuild together." He laughed softly. "You know, this started as a joke. Will you marry me?" Lyra turned to him, her smile full of warmth and meaning. And I said, I accept. The stars above shimmered brighter than ever, two souls, one bond forever written across the universe.